Let's get this show on the road. Just load this up on here. Just have to. Well, just going to share this onto my page. Wow, didn't realize how slow this phone is now. Alaykum assalam. Let's see. Alright. Alright. God, I don't know, why am I always late? हमेशा देर कर देता हूँ मैं. Those of you who've heard that poem. Khalid Tai, ahlan wa sahlan wa alaykum assalam, people, alaykum assalam. Let's see if I can. Whoa, right, okay. See if I can. Did somebody just say they've got to get they've got to get a wireless got to get wireless headphones as my wife gets annoyed by the sheikh's laugh. Well, there you go. You know what? If people are going to be annoyed by you laughing, laugh, right? Keep laughing, people. Keep laughing. One of life's greatest pleasures. That's what I can say. Laughter. Honestly. You can take this quote from me, that any moment spent in laughter is never a moment wasted. Forget the Islamic stuff. Right now, well, we've got a lot of questions. Shalwar Kameez, well, since it's Ramadan, it's not actually because of that. It's actually, I had to, I was at a janazah actually, so it's following on from that. Still got the Shalwar Kameez on. Right now, just going to bring up the questions. We've got quite a few questions, I have to say. Whoa, quite a few questions going on. Right, so I'm looking forward to answering some of these. And some of these, see, sometimes the screen is just too sensitive. Ah, God damn. I get all right, and then it just, come on. So right, so shall we get started with some of these? Get the ball rolling. It's been quite a while already. It's already gone past 10. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله عليكم ورحمته تعالى وبركاته. Mufti Abu Layth, can you bring the... And why you and people from Avicenna Academy? Wow. You and people from Avicenna Academy. I don't know why I'm having to carry the burden of other people. I've got no idea, but I'll answer your question as far as I'm concerned. I can speak on behalf of myself. I can't speak on behalf of other organizations. Alright, so let's begin with some of these questions, people. Fire away. That's it. So, what is your... Muhammad Shams Abdali has asked a question. What is your day-to-day schedule? My day... What a question to begin with. I don't think I have a schedule per se. I think I just have certain things I want done, and I just try to get them done, and sometimes can't be bothered. What the hell? Just throw in the towel for the day. You know what I'm saying? Some days it's work, work, work. Some days it's just chill. Some days it's like, can't be bothered with anything. Some days it's, I don't know, I don't know. I definitely do not have, I envy in a positive way, not out of a kind of a hateful, malign, but in a kind of benign envy, those people who are really incredibly, regimental with their organization and their kind of day-to-day schedules, and I wish I was like that, but I'm not. I don't know, like sometimes people ask me, somebody had asked me a question, do you spend, what time every day do you read, and do you do this, and do you do that? I just don't, with me, it just doesn't work like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. I just, sometimes I don't at all, and sometimes I'll just sit down and I'll start reading something and reading it, and I don't know. I wish I could read more. I envy those people who say that they read so much. Sometimes you speak to people and say, I love reading. I just read. And I think, wow, if only I was like that. I'd definitely prefer to watch something. Or, it doesn't have to be like a TV series. No, but I mean, if I was watching something on YouTube, I would rather watch something or listen to something than have to read it. But then when I read things, it's weird, because when I'm researching something Islamic, it doesn't feel like reading. It doesn't feel like I'm, I don't know, so that's a bit of a tricky one. But I don't have a routine. Shukran for asking. Some things I always want to do, like go to the gym. Some days I don't. Some days it's like kufr if I haven't been, so I have to go. Some days I'm just like, you know what? Forget it all, I'm just going to fill up the bath, I'm just going to chill, have an iced drink and a whole bottle, just knock it out, and that's it, I'm just going to chill, I don't care. And other days, I'd be like, what's this, what's that, I want to get 100 things done. But yeah, I'm learning, I'm todavía still, studiando español, and I'm, sometimes I get down proper at it, and then sometimes I'm so distracted, so I wish I had a better, more organized schedule, but I don't. I'd only be lying if I said I did. Right, so, next question. What is Ali Khalil? What is your take on Qardawi's centrist wasatiyyah position? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. I'm not quite sure what you mean by the wasatiyyah position. Maybe you can elaborate, and I'll be happy to expand on that. The understanding I'm taking away from this is to do with being moderate. But I'm not sure if that's what you mean, because wasatiyyah is usually more to do with moderation and being just and consistent, and I suppose you could understand it from being in the center, but that's I'm not sure, maybe you mean something else, so you'll have to combine. when to combine prayer. Next question, Abu Khalid has asked a question. You see, I've answered this in depth previously, that so you can check up my previous videos. You can just go to YouTube, search combining prayers, my name combining prayers, and it should come up. And inshallah, when we get in once, god damn, I crushed my finger in the door. I swear, the car door, and I didn't even slam the door shut. I just closed the door and I caught my finger in it, and it sliced almost a piece of it off, and I've come to learn why. In the movies when they adopt a torture method, it's through the fingertips. I've seriously come to understand the kind of sensitivity of the nerve receptors in the fingertips. It's like any touch on something and I'm like, ah! Right, so you see, I've answered previously, and I don't want to go over the whole thing in depth. Yeah, it's because I drive a Range Rover. But I didn't even slam the door. I seriously didn't. I just closed it like this and caught my finger in it. But, okay, so I've answered this previously, that the Prophet ﷺ spoke, the Qur'an speaks about combining prayers. La junah alaykum, right, sorry, not shortening, combining, sorry. I've spoken about this at great length as well, that combining the prayers can be done. It is established through many Sahih ahadith. You can find them through, whether it's Sahih Muslim, in Sahih Bukhari, in the Muwatta, that the Prophet ﷺ combined prayers. Okay, he combined between Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha. And that is been accepted by most schools of law, except the Hanafi madhhab, which felt it's a major sin to combine prayers. But with the exception of the Hanafi madhhab on this, the rest of the schools clearly recognize that the prayers can be combined. It is from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to do that when you are traveling. The travel to right, okay. You see, to combine prayers is not the same as shortening prayers. To shorten prayers, there is a specificity of a time frame. So some people say, that could be whether it's going to be 48 miles or 50 miles or 40 miles or 36 miles, and there's different opinions, but they're usually all around between about 48 kind of miles, 40 plus miles mark. Now the thing is, that is to shorten the prayers. Now the Shafi'i madhab said, okay, they were going to adopt the same principle for combining prayers, but the school of Medina did not recognize that. And for shortening the you have a spider on your shalwar kameez. I sure hope not. Right, well, if it comes up and just grabs me, just be sure to give me a shout out. The thing is, combining the prayers can be done just simply for a journey. It does not need to be a journey that is of a specific duration. It could be done for other reasons. It could be done to create ease. It could be done for illness. It could be done for work purposes. I've explained this before. Ashab from the Maliki madhhab did explain that even if it was just for a need to create some convenience, that's fine. And that's in accordance with the hadith in Sahih Muslim of Ibn Abbas who would combine whilst giving a speech. And he said, why he did that was, he said this is what the Prophet taught him, and he did it so his ummah would not have to be in, so his ummah could avoid inconvenience. Okay, now, next question. Right, what are your plans for Ramadan? Regular small tafsir clips, regular Q&A. Right, Khalil Qamar. Good question. La pregunta, the question is good, right? But I'm not actually planning on on doing any kind of tafsir classes. The reason being that, look, we've got so many people already doing this stuff. Okay. We've got so many people who are already delivering tafsir classes. People like, Ustad Noman Ali Khan has done an excellent job and does that in Ramadan. And you've got other people, and there's no point in me just trying to, if I'm not going to do an as good job, if I'm not going to do it better or as good as they are, then just let people benefit from other people that are doing that. I am releasing every day a clip which deals with a question and answer. The series I've titled Fast and Fiqhious. That's it, people. Fast and Fiqhious. That's what I'm talking about. Fast and Fiqhious. I do share it on this page. By the way, that brings me back to the point. That brings me back to the point that if you haven't liked this page, then like it, people. God damn it. What on earth are you waiting for? And share it, like it, share these videos, put a positive comment on there. Support some of the stuff I do, god damn it. It's interesting because people ask me a lot of questions and they ask me a lot of stuff, and I do answer a lot of people when I can, and obviously I'm distracted in my own world and my life as well, but I do say this to people as well. I say that, look, I say, I don't see you supporting any of my work. I don't see you liking or commenting but so it's okay to do that, people. It's okay to like and support and get certain knowledge out there and be a part of that. Not just to only reach out to people when you're in need and you need help. There's a poem of Ghalib where he says, "Banakar bhais hum faqiron ka ghalib, tamashaye ahle karam dekhte hain." That, you see, this is how he says we take upon ourselves this guise of somebody in need just to see how those who claim generosity act and behave. That let them people are people. So I mean, if you haven't already liked my page, do that so you can follow it. I'm sharing every day a Fast and Fiqhious clip. Listen to it. It's only a few minutes long. Benefit from it. Share it, like it, whatever. Get it out there. Right, so that's something I am doing during Ramadan. I may not really continue these, Monday nights during Ramadan. So, as far as I made a part of my family. Umar al-Hallak, you're doing it, bro. You're doing it. Right, so during Ramadan, I may not continue with, Monday nights with Mufti, because it'll probably just be too hectic and people have got their own things to do and everybody's rushing after iftar to catch Taraweeh or whatever, and people got to get to sleep to wake up, and so maybe not, huh? But if that changes, I'll let you know. But I will be releasing clips every day, which I already am releasing right now every day. I've been releasing some important clips, so do check them out. Mufti, does a person praying in congregation have to follow the Imam? And how does the Taslim? Could you do a different Taslim to the Imam? I.e. one salam instead of two? Right, okay. Now, when a person is following the Imam, he ought to just generally follow him. Right, so the thing is, that's what am I drinking today? Right, the usual. Right, so it's a cocktail, always a cocktail. So that's a mixture of Sprite Zero, Pepsi Max, some Dr. Pepper Zero, and some ice cubes. That's what I'm talking about, people. That's what I'm talking about. So you follow the Imam. There is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامِ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ, that the Imam has been placed to follow, so follow him. Right, so I think that's good. You should follow the Imam. But that doesn't mean you have to follow him in the exact how he stands or whatever. It means when the Prophet said, إِذَا رَكَعَ فَارْكَعُوا, when he goes into ruku, then go into ruku. If he stands up, then stand up. As in, don't let there be an incredible or a significant variation between you and the Imam. As to giving salam, when the Imam gives salam, you can just do one salam, like in the Maliki madhhab. But they do say that if you're in congregation, it's okay to do the second salam to the person who did salam to you. That's fine. Okay. Otherwise, in the school of Medina, we just usually say Assalamu alaikum. Just go Assalamu alaikum. That's it. And just get up and gone. Blind man. What was the hadith of the blind man? What was that? Right, so next question. If you live in an area where there is 24-hour sunlight, should one fast or give money to charity or just bun it? What the hell is bun it? Right, so before I come to this question, if it's going to be weird if you give one salam and the other person gives two, that's correct. So you can just give two salams, it's no big deal. You know, when you're praying in a masjid, it's no big deal to just do two salams. It is also from the school of Medina to do two as well. Alright, so many Malikis do two salams as well. Right, okay, if you're in a place where there was 24-hour sunlight during Ramadan, I would say that you could just fast in accordance with, you could either, you see, it's interesting. You could estimate, as in, you couldn't estimate, obviously, according to your own time, but you could just take a standard time. So, which could be like the time of the people in Mecca, for example. You could take Mecca time as a standard time, because it's one, it's a central position of Islam. Two, right, shukran and wa alaikum assalam. Right, two, it's it's close to the equator, so it's balanced. You could just take Mecca time and just open and close your fast in accordance with that. That's fine. That's what I would possibly do if I lived in a place where there was 24-hour sunlight. Okay. Following on from that, what if there is a 22-hour day? Someone allowed to fast? Yes, you are allowed to fast. Please watch my Fast and Fiqh clip on the Fatwa of Al-Azhar, where they said that you can open and close the fast in accordance with the timing of Mecca. But I do present my counter position there, my own fatwa, which states in countries like the UK, where it's not necessarily 22-hour sunlight, but it's close to about 20 hours on average. Now, or some places, I suppose, 21 hours. What I've said is that I believe, and I've gone into detail, so you can watch the clip and for more detail, that I believe it's permissible to eat into Fajr time, but up until before sunrise. So, with enough time to pray Fajr and Subah before sunrise. So let's say 10 minutes before, I don't know, 7-8 minutes before, as long as you've got wudu beforehand, right? So you could do that. In my understanding, you could eat into Fajr time. Okay, that's my personal fatwa, which is in accordance with several ahadith that are transmitted, and I go through all of this in the clip in my Fast and Fiqh. I believe it's from a few days ago. It's on my wall. Check it out. Watch the clip. Obviously elaborate in much more detail. They explain who the companions were that used to do that, why I've chosen that fatwa, because they did it without the concept of without the concept of difficulty, and we are in difficulty, plus we don't have a Fajr doesn't actually kick in technically, and I go into much more detail there, so if you watch that, but that's my fatwa, that for Ramadan, and I'm definitely against this imsak business, this business of you should close the fast before Fajr even kicks in. I find that utter nonsense, and if anything, I find it borderline bid'ah, right, an innovation in Islam, and especially in the UK where people are already going to be fasting for 21 hours. I don't think you should impose more time on them. So I would say they either just stick to their time, or it's permissible for them to eat into Fajr up until before sunrise. Okay, so if that makes sense. Right, now, would saying Sallallahu Alayka Ya Rasulallah in our time be considered shirk? No, it wouldn't be shirk to say. Saying Ya Rasulallah isn't shirk, it's just calling out to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Obviously, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is not here with us, okay? As in, he's not like in this room, he's not, I know some Muslims believe stuff like that, but that's just all folkloric, superstitious beliefs that some Muslims have. But that's obviously, and that would be, from an Islamic perspective, bizarre to have a belief like that. But generally saying stuff like Ya Rasulallah is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. People have said that right throughout the time, and people say it now, and just to kind of speak out to the Prophet ﷺ as though he were here. Not that he is, but as though. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like if I was speaking out to, let's say, a friend who's no longer here, or who's not here, as though I'm soliloquizing, but I'm speaking out as though he's here. There's nothing wrong in that. Okay, and that's definitely not shirk. Why do the Hanafis delay their Fajr congregation time compared to other madhabs? Well, that's because they have a hadith which is in, I believe, in Tirmidhi and in some other books, that asfiru bil fajr fa innahu a'zamu lil ajr, that the Prophet ﷺ said, delay or brighten up your Fajr, that it is better for reward. Now, then you do have other hadith in Bukhari and the Muwatta, another way that people would finish their Fajr and it was still utter dark, that you couldn't even make out the faces. So I think there's no harm either way. There's a capacity, there's Fajr time isn't restricted. It's restricted, but it's not so tightly, narrowly restricted. It has from dawn till sunrise, and between that's fine. Is there any conclusive ruling within the Qur'an and Sunnah that mandates hijab? Kya hua? Oh, people. It's that time. Chalo jaldi se. Aaja. क्या हुआ? क्यों मेरी जान? चलो यहाँ पे जल्दी से, और फिर आपको जाना है यहाँ. क्या हुआ? चलो यहाँ आना है, नहीं आना है. Okay, चलो फिर मैं आता हूँ. Okay, फिर. Then you can tell me, okay? Right, well, right, so, I've lost the questions now. That's due to Layla, who is telling me now she hates the nights. I don't... Nightmares, I guess. Right, so... Telling me now she hates the nights. I don't... Alright, okay, so, sorry, just... Supposed to go back to the questions here. Okay, there's so many questions. Wow, let's get through some of these, people. What advice would you give to... No, there's more. Wow. Right, okay, let's get moving through some of these. Is there any conclusive ruling within the Qur'an and Sunnah that mandate hijab? Head covering. Yeah, the Qur'an isn't so clear, but the Sunnah does have a hadith. So the Qur'an speaks about covering, but I suppose it alludes to a head covering, but it doesn't. So it says about that about the women that they should yudnina alayhinna bijalabibihinna, that they kind of draw over them their kind of cloaks, and it mentions فَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمْرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. So obviously in that time, the way women's dresses were, that the jayb was, I suppose, a bit like this. It was a slit, and obviously it had to be large to get the head through, and that wasn't really tied. It was just left open, and it would show a certain amount of cleavage. And so the thing is that the Qur'an speaks about covering that with the khimar. So it alludes to the presence of a khimar, which is now it doesn't allude to it. It states the presence of a khimar, which is a head covering. The question is, well, some people have then said, well, is that just a contingent statement, as in, is that just like a coincidental, or is that a conditional element? So some people have questioned that, maybe more so in our day and age. But the thing is, generally, it alludes to it in the Qur'an. It's not absolutely categorically clear in the Qur'an. The Sunnah is more clear on these things. So in the Hadith, when the Prophet is asked, and the Prophet says, except the face and the hands, everything else should be covered. So I would say in the Sunnah. But that said, I don't think we really need to make... I think we should just let people be. And people have their own pace, and they have their own time. I have gone over this in much more detail in the past, so you can check out my previous clip. I do go into some discussion on Ibn Ashur's Tafsir, and the mention of some people who said hair wasn't from the hijab, and my own research. And so if you search YouTube for my name and hijab and go through some of the different things I've covered, maybe you can benefit from that. I don't want to repeat it all right now. The Bible talks about a head covering. I don't know if the Bible would be really could be used as evidence, or any meaningful evidence within the Quranic or within the Islamic framework, because it's too many confounding variables if we're going to bring in the Bible. We're going to be bringing in all kinds of genocide. Could you elaborate on the purpose of testing Adam and Eve with the tree? Surely Allah knew what the outcome would be. One might say that it seems that man was created to fail. How would you respond to that? It's a very interesting question. I think, you see, even the tree is an interesting point, because you see, in the Quran, Allah speaks about, right, there's a pointer here just before I go into this about shar'u man qablana. That is true that the ulama have said about shar'u man qablana, but not with, you see, when they say shar'u ma qablana, they mean shar'u ma qablana with what has been mentioned in the Quran generally, as opposed to from their books. So just to clarify, Sahib, shukriya. So the thing is, that's not what they mean by shar'u man qablana, but they mean what is mentioned in either through Israeliyat or through what is mentioned through our system of transmission. So if in the Quran Allah is addressing Bani Israel, can we also take that as shar'u man qablana, or do we, which means the prior religions? Or it doesn't mean that we go to the Bible and take from the Bible, because the Bible is not reliable as a valid source. I mean, we believe it would have truths in there, but it's not a for a technical source. It's not something we adopt. Right, okay, now this thing about, and it's interesting, following on from the Bible, this question about Adam and Eve. You see, Allah saying to, testing Adam and Eve in the garden. First of all, where is the garden? I've answered previously that people have disagreed. I believe that the garden was on earth. That's what Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah also says in his book as well. Now, and other Mufassirin, that this garden, Jannah, was the garden on earth. It wasn't, the Jannah of the Akhirah. Now, by the way, nobody believes it was the Jannah of the Akhirah, but some people believe it was some Jannah somewhere else, some other Jannah. But I believe it was on earth. Now, this tree that Allah says, "Kulu minha," that go, that go into this Jannah, وَكُلَا مِنْهَا رَغَدًا, and eat from it wherever you like. وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةَ فَتَكُونَ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. But do not approach this particular tree, lest you should transgress. Now it's interesting, what was this tree that Allah was speaking about? Now in Islam, it's never been specified what this tree was. In biblical sources, like they say the apple tree, and some places, some people have said it was something else, and a pomegranate tree, and some people have said some other tree. In the Judaic sources, they seem to say it was more figurative. That it wasn't actually a tree, it was a metaphor. Which is interesting because in the Qur'an, in one of the verses, it's referred to as Shajratul Khuld, the tree of eternity. Now, which in itself cannot be an actual tree. There isn't a tree of eternity. Like if I say this is the tree of knowledge, this is the tree of eternity, this is the tree of health. These things are figurative then. So in one verse of the Qur'an, it is referred to as Shajratul Khuld. That the shaitan kind of, he kind of incites them towards the Shajratul Khuld, this tree of eternity. And he says to them, Ala adullukum ala mulkin, shall I not tell you about a kingdom? So the thing is now, right, so this is a figurative, according to a lot of the Judaic sources, so it's a tree of knowledge. Now, that they somehow take from. And once they do, according to Judaic sources, they become self-conscious, and some biblical sources, they become self-conscious. One interesting thing that I've come across from some scholars, and I find that it follows on from this kind of figurative speech, and it's actually something I'm more inclined to. And that is that, you see, Adam was being tested for that the Adam and Eve, that the prohibition was a sexual prohibition. That they were not to, that the tree here was figurative, not for the tree of knowledge, but for the tree of progeny and offspring. That it was simply a trial. The way like we have in Ramadan, you have that right during sunrise till sunset, or during dawn till sunset, you will not have engaged in sexual contact. So in the same way, why? Because the sexual desires are obviously one of the most powerful human desires or creature desires that there are. So, and according to some people, the most powerful instinct there is. So, this was the prohibition that Adam and Hawa were given, according to this take. Okay. Now, based on that, Adam alayhi salam was being enticed by the shaitan. He was being told, oh, this will lead you to eternity. And what eternity meant in that concept, it meant that through your offspring you will live on. Because Adam already knew that he would die, that he understood what mortality was. He wasn't like, It's not that he never knew about death. He knew what death was. So it makes sense to me that this was was a metaphor, figurative, for sexual contact or sexual interaction between themselves, because it would have led to offspring, and that was the test. But you see, Adam then gave in, and that also ties in why he would have given in, not because of curiosity, but because the instinct would have been very powerful, and it would have been the most powerful instinct there was. Because it doesn't, to me, that ties in more rather than just simple curiosity. Because the other aspect is that, well, he gave in because of curiosity, which is also, admittedly, people are very curious. But it would make more sense if it was because of an instinct. The other thing is the verse says that, and what you see, once they've done the deed, it mentions, then they're in a state of kind of embarrassment, and they start to cover their nakedness. This is what the Qur'an says, فَطَفِقَ يَخْطِفَانِ عَلَيْهِمَا مِنْ وَرَقِ الْجَنَّةِ. So they start to get things and cover their nakedness. Now, why would they be covering their nakedness? So according to some people, that's because prior to eating from the tree, the Judaic sources, they were not self-aware and self-conscious. So when they used to be naked, but when they ate from there, they all of a sudden realized, oh, we're naked. I find that really weird, because we know other hominins before Adam, Neanderthals and other hominins, they wore clothes. They, not clothes like suits like us, but they had some, they used to wrap around and keep warm, and they weren't. So I find that strange that they didn't have awareness. But it would make sense that once, if we take the deed not to mean they ate an apple or ate a fruit, but to mean actual post sexual intercourse, they had obviously, once the whole desire had subsided, they had this whole kind of like sense of guilt of what have we kind of done, and at that point an embarrassment, and they start to cover. This was something which makes a lot more sense, rather than you eat from a tree and all of a sudden you realize you're naked. That to me does not make much sense. But I mean, if you want to believe that, that's fine. I don't think either way it's a problem. This story hasn't been given in detail. It's just for us to guess, if you like, and it's not. The details are not really meant to make such a big difference. We just know there was some incident. Now that's what makes most sense to me. If it makes sense to you, alhamdulillah. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Somebody said in the Bible, it says that Eve was punished with pregnancy. I mean, if she became pregnant following that, it could make sense. But I don't think punished is the right word, but it would be part of this plan to have offspring, because they would understand that this is how we're going to have children. Then they were banished from this garden. And according to this understanding, when Allah says, إِهْبِطُوا بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌ, that you will be amongst yourselves, you will have animosity, like enmity, like kind of hostility between yourselves. Some people said this was between the devil and Adam and Hawa and so on. But in my understanding, this is between, some people said between the snake, because Shaitan took, he took the kind of disguise of a serpent or whatever, according to the biblical stories. But in this, it would mean that you are banished from the garden, that your offspring, that the children of Adam, by default, you will always have some hostility to one another. That your default position will always be one of hostility. That when you come across each other, by default, you will be hostile. And compassion is something that you will attain through reason. It is not the default position to be compassionate towards mankind. And I think that ties in with how people are. Okay, right, next question. Is it permissible to pray the obligatory salah sitting down without a valid reason? Farhan, no, it's not. Right, now, yeah. Right, so it's not permissible to just, because to stand is one of the obligatory elements, the rukn, or is a pillar within salah, so you must stand. Next question. In the Maliki madhhab, is it permissible to pray with shorts revealing the knees and also some portions of the thigh? Right, okay, Nasser. In the Maliki madhhab, you have, generally, you ought to cover the extended awrah, which is up to the knees, and there's a debate whether the knee is part, not. Generally, they would say the knee isn't, but some people may argue it is, but from that to the navel, but they say that's not the core awrah, that's the extended awrah for men, and the core awrah is the actual genitals and the private parts and the rectum. Now, the thing is, the other, within the Maliki school, the other position, which of some of the Iraqi sub-school, like Qadi Ismail, was that covering is not a part of Salah. It's an independent obligation, separate to Salah. So if a person was to pray, let's say in a dark room, or in a room naked, his Salah would still be valid, but he would be committing a violation of his Islamic duties to be covered. So that's, personally, I am quite inclined to Qadi Ismail's position, who was a legend of the Maliki madhhab, that I don't think this is an inherent, I don't think it invalidates the salah, although a person is wrong for not covering. That said, when it comes to salah, I would say unless there was a need that you happen to, so for example, you happen to be in shorts and now you don't have time because, you know, I don't know, you were somewhere, let's say you were playing football and now you haven't got your kit and salah's gonna run out and you want to pray like that, okay, as a one-off kind of thing, okay, but I wouldn't say as a habit you pray in your shorts. I would say that if you can, you pray dressed, okay, so adequately at the very least. That's my understanding. That's what I would say that you should always do. So men and women, we should be covered adequately for prayer. Okay, but do I feel that the prayer is invalid? I don't feel the prayer is invalid, but if you dress down or if you were uncovering, I just think that's a separate violation, it doesn't invalidate the prayer. Okay, now next question, people. Is it in the Maliki method? Alright, just answer that. If interest at 2 or 3% isn't usurious, then having a drink or two without getting blacked out drunk is fine. Abdullah Khan. Not necessarily, because you see, if you watch my previous discussions on interest, and I've done quite a few, so if you search my name, search riba or search interest on YouTube and Facebook, you can listen to some of the discussions. This is not about 2 or 3% of riba is okay, therefore it's okay, and therefore 2 or 3% of alcohol is okay. That's qiyas ma'al fari. That's a that's just retarded logic, okay? What the discussion is that interest to start off with in the first place? That's the discussion. Now I know to you, or to some people, that may be obvious, but to other people it's not obvious. Because the riba of Jahiliyyah, according to many people, is not this interest which is given by banks today. That is not what the Qur'an was addressing. So if you don't agree on what the Qur'an was addressing, then you can't give an analogy upon something which everybody agrees upon. Okay, so that's, do you understand now? So it's like saying, I don't know, like if you don't agree on something being theft, is something stealing. So if for example, if we, let's say we shared accommodation, and sometimes I bring food, sometimes you bring food, so I drink some of your drink, right? I take out some Pepsi from the fridge, I pour it in the glass, and I drink it. Could you classify that as theft? Now, some people may try to say that is theft. Other people may say, whoa, 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 that's not actually theft. Because the definition of theft would be some kind of, there would be some clandestine kind of activity where you are, secretly kind of removing something and you're doing it without. So because the definition isn't agreed upon, we're not accepting. So it's the same thing here. We're not accepting that that is riba. It's not that we're saying, oh, it's okay that it is riba, but it's just a bit. Okay? Just to clarify that. But for more details, watch my other clip. I asked this last time too regarding dyeing hair black. Is it haram? Why was it prohibited? You can dye your hair black according to the school of Medina, according to Imam Malik, and I believe it's Abu Yusuf within the Hanafi madhhab as well. There's no problem with that. It's not haram. Some ulama consider it haram because they felt that it's some form of deception. It could be leading to deception. But I mean, I suppose if, I doubt it. I mean, could it be deceptive? It could be argued. But in this day and age, and then getting white hair doesn't always depend on old age. Like sometimes some people are in their 20s and they've got white hair. So it's not always a matter of age. There's many transmissions from the Salaf that they would dye their hair black. And people that said it's haram, they use the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged Abu Bakr and other people to dye their hair. And he said, وَجَنِّبُ السَّوَادِ, and avoid black. So they understood this as being haram. Other people said that that's just because he said it out of, the Prophet said this out of advice, that it would look really weird on them. Just as today, if you get some people who are, for example, 60 years old, and they've got jet black hair, jet black, and really wrinkled face, and it looks weird on them. So, in that sense, you would say to the person that, whoa, that looks weird. Why on earth would you do something like that? Like, why not just dye it like a brown or something, or hints of grey, or make it look natural, make it look good. So don't look weird with it. So this is, so these ulama, like the school of Medina and some of the Hanafi madhhab, they understood that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to be simply advisory. That the Prophet was advising Abu Bakr that, and yeah, I've seen people who are really old sometimes. It doesn't suit them. So, yeah, I mean, multicolored hair could look cool. I mean, I've wanted to get streaks, like some bright golden streaks going. But the thing is, look, what I'm trying to say is that the Maliki madhhab understood that to be just advisory. Okay. Please, brother, don't look like non-Muslims. For instance, do we Muslims wear necklace? Please, brother, be a very good example if you can. There you go. That's a good example. I just blocked you. Right, so the thing is, look, I mean, from all the days, for God's sake, from all the days, I sat down wearing a goddamn shalwar kameez. I mean, I don't even wear a shalwar kameez. I mean, look at this. I have sat here in a shalwar kameez from all the days, and you chose today to say don't look like a non-Muslim. I mean, for God, the goddamn non-Muslims in your area, do they walk around in shalwar kameez? Seriously. So you were going to look at me, and despite all of this, despite the fact being brown is enough to be identified as a Muslim in this part of the world, but despite all of this, you are going to see my necklace and think, ah, Christian. What a retard. Right, so the thing is, right, so let's move on. Salam, Mufti Abu Layth, in the Qur'an, story of Adam and Eve, was that the forbidden tree there? Was that literally a tree? I've answered that already, Yasser, and I've said that in my understanding it wasn't. My laugh is scary. Well, thank you. Although I'm sure you don't mean it as a compliment. In the Hanafi madhhab, are women allowed to place their hands below the navel during Salah? Women usually tend to place their hands, I think it's like this, isn't it? I mean, I've never really prayed as a woman. But I think they place them like that. As Hanafis, okay. In the other madhabs, men and women pray the same, really. But yeah, so women don't place their hands beneath the navel, okay. Right, if you are a genuinely good person, avoid sin, give charity, but you don't pray, do you still get a ticket to hell? Do you get a ticket to hell? You get front row? You're gonna... Well, this is Jahannam. You know that scene from Sparta? You're gonna get kicked in like that. The thing is, look, of course it's not that you get a front seat, front row, VIP seats to hell. Look, who goes to heaven, who goes to hell, all these things are up to Allah. We just simply have a system to abide by in this dunya. We have a journey to be on. What happens in the akhirah is up to Allah. Okay, you do not, according to the hadith, nobody enters heaven by their actions. So, that said, we shouldn't belittle the value of salah. Salah is incredibly valuable, and it is our connection to Allah. So I think every Muslim ought to pray. Okay. If all the good and bad things that will happen to oneself has already been written and ordained, then what is the point of praying? Shiraz, excellent question. I have answered this previously. That about predestination. Check it out. All right, do check I've done a few talks on this. I don't believe things like that were preordained. We have free will. Okay, but I've explained it and linked it into the quantum eraser kind of experiment and shown how at a quantum level things rewrite history based on a delayed choice, and said based on that you can now imagine us in a similar way. Based on our choice, things are rewritten accordingly. Okay, so, and I think in the past it was difficult for people from a factual perspective to make sense of that, because they saw this as you are either you're doing something or you're not, either Allah knows or He doesn't. But now, through things like quantum physics, we can a lot more make sense to us. Okay, so I would Hasad goes, what is it? You're good, but I'm not quite on your level yet. What? Mange? That's the... Mange Guru. You must be on another level. Right, so I do believe in free will, okay? King Salman awarded Donald Trump with a gold medal and cameras rolling for worldwide coverage. What do you think? I couldn't really care less, to be honest. I don't really care about the whole Donald Trump, King Salman thing. I find it humorous to see how some of the kind of hardcore Salafis bend over backwards to kind of praise the king of Saudi Arabia as though he's some kind of whatever he is. it doesn't, this Trump visit doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't know why people are so fussed about stuff like this. I don't know what else they would expect. Why would they expect any different? Obviously, it's politics. It's, the way the world works. It's nothing I wouldn't expect. So, some people, I gotta say, some of the memes, some of the clips are hilarious. Like the other person who's looking at Ivanka, or whatever, however they say her name, right? So he's looking... that he's got to think, God damn, he's got to hate the person who recorded that. Right, so moving on. Some people are totally insensitive when they refer to the green dome of the Prophet's mosque, whilst others become spiritually attached to the green dome. Is the green dome a symbol of Islam? No, the green dome has got nothing to do with Islam per se. It's just something that was adopted during the time of the Ottomans. And since it's become now linked with the Prophet's mosque, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so I think now that it's been a part of the Prophet's mosque for centuries, we would just kind of we would show that respect and reverence for it. But otherwise, in essence, a green dome would not be part of. It's nothing Islamic per se. It's just now that it's become part of the mosque. On this note, I want to take another question. Right, it's not exactly linked, but it's kind of linked to this answer in a way. Right, I'd annoyed quite a few people. It takes it. I mean, it looks like it. That which is nothing new, because if I'm not annoying people, sometimes I have to think, am I even doing my job properly? So the thing is that some people are really offended about me responding previously about the status of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Islam. And some people have done some posts and done some things, and not that it bothers me, but they've obviously taken huge offense, and what are you saying? This guy Abu Layth is a nobody, and the family of the Prophet are everybody and everything, and they've got some kind of pathetic statements that they've made, and just dissing me and saying all sorts and trying to swear at me or do whatever they're doing. Now, okay, I want to answer that question. Right, now, before I answer it, I want to shed some light on another question which is important too. And that is, what does religion mean to people? Okay, what does religion mean? Now, religion means different things to different people. You have to understand that. It's not necessary that all of those things, the meanings that you take from religion, the religion designed for you to have. But it could be that, it still helps you. So, I don't know, as an example, you can use a tool for something which may help you, but in some way, but it's not that tool was necessarily designed or had a purpose for that. If I pick up a knife and fork and use it as a screwdriver, I can use it, but it doesn't mean that the knife was designed to be used as a screwdriver. Okay, so sometimes you can take meanings from religion, but the religion wasn't aiming for you to necessarily take that meaning, but you take that meaning anyway. Now, religion like I said, why religion was revealed was why Allah set out revelation was so we can come to know, reflect and ponder over Allah, and try to reconcile reality and faith throughout our journey of life. Along the way, Allah has set out certain parameters for us. For people who cannot busy themselves with pondering and reflection, at least they can do certain rituals, like pray and so on, and do things like that. Now, this is what religion is about. Now, to some people, you see, it's about rites of passage. It's about, okay, certain stages in life that give them some meaning. To other people, they go a step further, and it's about a kind of folklore and some kind of, where it's got to, I don't know, some kind of decorative, folkloric element, which will have elements of superstition in there. It will have elements of, and this, they seek meaning from this in life. Okay, so to some people, like I've been asked before, why do people go to saints and ask at their graves and do things like this, and why? And I've explained before, because in all honesty, people struggle with the concept of just one God. They really do. I mean, it's not that they struggle with the idea that there's one God. That people manage to accept. But in the real world, people can't accept such a magnificent, majestic being, because it doesn't make sense that, you see, he's too remote. They created everything's out there. Why would he be bothered about me? I need to go to a person like me to ask. I need mediums and means, and it's because it makes sense to them. Polytheism actually makes sense to people. Ironically, I know at a rational level it doesn't, that these are all gods, but on the ground it actually makes sense to people. Even Christianity, all it did was just replaced all the demigods with saints, and you know, the pontification of all these people, and the patron saints of different, that's all it did to some extent. Obviously it could be argued, but in a similar way, to some people, Islam is all just about emotions. It's just about feelings. Like, I want to feel spiritual, I want to feel blessed, I want to... It's not about meaning, about making sense. It's about just a rationale or about reason. It's just about emotion. I need to get emotional. You see, for these people, to be emotional, you need things like stories, you need things like tales of suffering, you need things like, you know, you need to get all in a sad state and emotional, and you need a sense of, obviously, of sanctity, holiness. And people, they need to be people as well, not just something in the books. Right, well, thank you, Gareth. I appreciate that. Right, the thing is, so to some people, religion, it has to have these figures. It has to have people who are special people. So, why not the holy bloodline? And this is nothing special to Islam. You know, the whole sangrial, you know, whether it was sangrial or sangrial, whether it was the Holy Grail or the Holy Bloodline in Christianity. And, you know, Da Vinci's Code and the whole thing. But the point is that this Holy Bloodline concept has preceded Islam. Right. I use the books for research. Right. Now, the thing is that it's in many religions, not just Islam. So some people in Islam have taken that as well, especially the Shia. Okay, the Shia tradition is one heavily focused on emotion. And some people within the Sunni tradition have been heavily influenced by Shia propaganda, or sometimes by just other... They may be within just normal Sunni beliefs, but they are people who need this as well. They need emotion. They need... Their connection to religion is all about emotion. So it's about getting all worked up about things, about people who are holy, special people. Why are they special? They're special because they carry a special blood. Whose blood? The blood of the Prophet flows through their veins. You see, now this kind of idea for some people is what religion is all about. And I get that. I do understand this whole thing about why they need to do that, right? So to them, there has to be the the family of the Prophet are these saved or beloved people. The Sayyids are this high esteemed, they're the bloodline of the Prophet, and they carry this and they carry that, and they're blessed, and we go to places which are blessed, and we carry blessings, and we do all these things. You see, but when you actually, I get that, but it doesn't mean that that is actually what the religion wanted from you. I understand that you might need that as an individual in your life, but that's not what actually Islam taught. Right? This reality isn't, you could take this reality outside of Islam and you'll find the same in other religions. You'll find this in many religions, this whole thing of there has to be a holy bloodline, like I said, whether it's Sangreal through the Christian concept, or whether it's in other Hindu, certain strands of Hinduism, you'll find this in other religions as well. This is not, or whether through Judaism, the whole concept of the tribes of Israel linked with blood and stuff like this. So people, when I said, you see, now keeping that in mind, it's not that I don't understand this, but it's not what Islam was actually about. Okay. But I get at a low level, many people cling to beliefs like this, because to them it makes things work, because they are all about emotions. But you have to understand that this emotional religion, whilst it's emotional, is the easiest to deconstruct and destroy. And mark my words when I say this, that those people who base their religion on emotionality, this is the first that will go out the window. Should your religion or the religion of your offspring, your children, collide someday in the face of atheism, I promise you it will be the first to shatter to pieces. Because emotionality does not stand against reason. Never. It will just be embarrassed and ridiculed. Now you can cling to that once again emotionally, and look, it doesn't bother me as a person. That's fine. You can believe, you can get all emotional and say that, no, but this is the spiritual, and this is but it should, and I tell you something, mark my words, people, if not you, then I guarantee, living here in the West, in the UK, I guarantee that your children, their iman will be tested, their faith will be tested. And should that day come, and it will come, I can swear by Allah that when it clashes with reason, I and people like me who have presented this version of Islam is who you will send or resort your children to get the responses and the answers that you are seeking today. Right? Because emotionality will not stand. Okay, when you present emotions and just getting all upset in front of atheism today will rip that Islam to pieces. What are you talking about, a holy bloodline? What are you talking about? They are special people because they carry special blood. What kind of, how bizarre does that sound? Seriously, I mean, do you really think it wouldn't take minutes to destroy that from a logical and rational perspective? So, I just want to answer that give that backdrop first of all. Secondly, I wanted to highlight that from an Islamic perspective, let's look at it from an Islamic perspective. I only presented what Imam Malik had already taught. Imam Malik, when he was asked, who are the the family of the Prophet? Are they Bani Hashim? Are they Bani, Alawiyin or Fatimiyin? He said no. He said, whenever we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, send blessings upon Allah and his al. He said his al are his followers. Atba'u Muhammad. Those who follow and believe in Muhammad are his al. We are all his al. all Muslims are the Ahl of the Prophet. Imam Malik said that it doesn't matter if you're a Hashimi, it doesn't matter if you're a Alawi, right, or a Fatimi. It does not, you have no virtue above any other Muslim. This is what Imam Malik taught, and you can check in his Kitab al-Kafa'a when it comes to nikah, when he was asked, oh, what is an equal in marriage, where other madhabs disagreed and said, oh no, we're going to give preference to Arabs, we're going to give preference to Quraysh. Imam Malik threw that out the window. I'm only teaching what the school of Medina taught. The Qur'an said that on the فَإِذَا نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, on the day of judgment, when the final hour is here, the Qur'an says, right, that فَلَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ, that they will have no lineage between them that day. Everybody is from the children of Adam. Right, so I'm sorry to burst your bubble if you think you have a special status because you're Sayyid. But according to me, you don't. The Prophet himself said, these are the words of the Prophet that were transmitted, that an Arab is not better than a non-Arab, and a non-Arab is not better than an Arab. And he said that nobody, that a white or a black, nobody is better than each other except through God consciousness. So I'm sorry to burst your bubble. You can think that just because you're a particular tribe of an Arab or an alleged tribe of, you're an Alawi from Ali radiallahu an, that you today carry some special virtue, that's fine. That's your emotional. I understand that, like many people throughout the world, Muslims and non-Muslims who cling to religion at a folkloric level, they need emotionality. I get that. So you are just doing the same thing. So you just need emotion to kind of say, well, look, I need this, and that's fine. But right, so the thing is, right, if anybody's trolling here, I'm just gonna block them. But I wanted to just let you know that, look, you can disagree with me, you can be offended all you like, right? I speak to you what the Qur'an has said, what the Prophet himself has said. You can say, well, I disagree with the Prophet, and that's up to you. Okay, but I give you the words of the Prophet, I give you the words of Allah. Now you choose to accept them. I gave you the words of Imam Malik. He didn't accept. Now you could say, look, in my madhhab, in my school of law, we give preference. I get that. You could say, look, in my school of law, we give preference. I know in the Hanafi madhhab, they accept all this kind of hierarchy and caste system and accept it. But I think it's nonsense. Imam Malik taught it was nonsense. I do not subscribe to the Hanafi school. I subscribe to the school of Medina. So I teach what I teach. Right, so the thing is now, so just to clarify, right, because I think sometimes some people, they get all emotional and they say all this kind of stuff, and it's good to understand that, look, right, okay, Gareth, what's going on? Right, so I'm trying to answer some of these questions here. Alright, so anyway, right, if you've got any questions, because I've got quite a few here to take, so Gareth, feel free to just message me and I will get back to you, rather than, because I've got to get through a lot of these first. Right, so what does doing khidmah of the deen mean? Is working as a doctor, for example, doing khidmah of the deen, getting more reward? Yes, look, anything could be a service to the deen. Whoa, Gareth, coward, whoa, right, any more, you're going to get blocked. Right, so the thing is, look, doing any service to mankind, to humanity, right, is a service to the deen, but at the same time, you can learn about Islam. Obviously, that is a great service to yourself, learning about the faith. Right, so, okay. Right, next one. Salam Mufti, could you please shed some light on the ideology of gender equality, how this stands from the Islamic natural perspectives? I'm not sure what that exactly means. Right, I'm not sure what that exactly means. Right, somebody just mentioned a hadith that every nasab is will break except the nasab on that the Prophet's nasab. I gave you a verse of the Qur'an, but it obviously wasn't enough for you. Right, well, look, the thing is, look, if you disagree, that's your belief, mate. I've got no problem with whatever you believe. People out there believe all sorts, right? The Prophet himself taught that his lineage was not special. He himself taught you that an Arab is not better than a non-Arab. According to you, an Arab, a special tribe of Arabs, are better than the rest of mankind. That's your belief. I do not believe that Islam reflects that, in my understanding. Okay, you can keep that. People present the verse of the Qur'an, which is قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, that I do not ask you any reward for what I do. The Prophet said, except mawadda, compassion regarding fil qurba. Now, there's a disagreement. What does qurba mean? Now, it's in Sahih al-Bukhari that Ibn Abbas was sitting there and Ibn Jubayr, and they asked him, what does qurba mean? Because qurba can mean an act of worship, it can mean relatives. Okay, tell her. Salam bolna. Go on then. I think people, I think Layla wants to say hi.
I don't want to.
You don't want to. Chalo aapko sona hai abhi. Bedtime.
No, just that I can't. But I don't got time for that thing.
Abhi nahi. Baad mein. Right. So the thing is, now, so just to kind of, now qurba can mean relative. So what does it mean here? What most of the Mufassirin all went with was that the Prophet was speaking about his own relation to those people. That he was saying to them, look, at the very least, remember I'm a relative of yours. And this is what Ibn Abbas says in Sahih Bukhari. Okay, so that's in Sahih Bukhari, you can accept that. And that's also, and Ibn Ashur has a very good explanation on this verse once again. He says those people who say this is my relatives, he said that they've brought only weak or fabricated hadith to say that. And he said this does not mean it's a diss against the relatives of the Prophet, but it's simply to say that this verse is not speaking about that. Okay, and that's what Ibn Ashur says in his Tafsir. Right, I'm not sure on the ideology of gender equality, what that means. In Islam, obviously, there is equality between the genders. I mean, you see, it's different because there's an equality from a human rights perspective. Obviously, there's roles which society ascribes to the genders, which may vary. Just as the role of a mother, the role of a father, the role of a husband, wife, son, daughter. These may vary based on your gender, but it doesn't mean that it's unjust, if that makes sense. In the masjid, in some masjids in the UK, there are imams who never interact with people on a personal level. What is your take? I mean, I'm not an imam in a masjid. I could never be an imam in a masjid. You can clearly see why. So I can't really comment. Obviously, I think it's a demanding job to be an imam. I do think in the UK it's definitely undervalued massively. You pay peanuts, that's what you get. If you wanted... right. If you pay peanuts, well, that's what you're going to get. Okay, so... they are definitely underrated, and the quality of the scholars of the imams is very poor. Somebody asked a question just following on about what I said about the Panjtan Paak, the 5 holy blessed bodies, and they're referring to the Prophet, Fatima, Ali, and Hassan and Hussein. You see, the thing is this, and they say some people, you see, it does not mean that these were not great people. They were great people. But all of the companions were great people. Okay, and these were great people. The wives of the Prophet were great people. But what I do not like is the kind of Shia, is this kind of surreptitious, this kind of, I don't know, like sly Shia propaganda that creeps in under a Sunni veneer. Right, and and all they're about is abuse to the wives of the Prophet. They hate the wives of the Prophet. They abuse them and swear to them, and they abuse the companions of the Prophet. And under this banner of this love of the family of the Prophet, it's nothing but nonsense. Okay, I do not support it. Anytime I see that, that's to me a flag. Okay, this is just covert Shia propaganda. That's all it is. So I'm not interested. So people come, they talk to me about all this kind of nonsense. I just tell them, look, listen, right, take your Shia propaganda elsewhere, because I'm just going to block you. We've got, unfortunately, too many Shias, undercover kind of propaganda going on. Right, so this Panjtan Paak, or the 5 sacred bodies, does not really exist within, in my understanding, in Sunni Islam like that. They were great people, but so were all of the great companions. The best Muslim after the Prophet is Abu Bakr, according to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And then it's Umar, okay, and then it's Uthman. And according to Imam Maliki, he even refused to accept Ali after that. But according to other narrations, he did. And I've covered this in depth previously. But the point is that, look, it's in that order. And it's then Ali radiallahu an. Right? And this is how we accept them. That's how I accept them. That's how this ummah has accepted them. The best of the people were not, number one, was not, you know, the family of the Prophet. I'm sorry to say that. It doesn't mean they weren't great. They were amazing people. But chill out, people, with the emotionality. Right? And be a bit more reason-based. Right, okay, sabr means patience, but how does one practice it? If a family member dies, how do you become... Obviously, that's a very difficult question, Sayyid Ataullah Husseini. You know, how does a person practice patience? It's difficult, but I mean, that's why there's an immense reward in being patient. And may Allah create ease for anybody who is suffering. Ameen. Ameen. Right. I know I already asked the question. I'm terrified. Walk away. Terrified of being alone 6 feet under. What? Here's, how can I stop fearing death? I think the thing is, look, the fear of mortality is something you're not alone in. Okay, we are all afraid of death. I think it's not just the death, it's dying, which we're probably more afraid of, and the fear of the unknown. It's a human reaction, okay, and we all contemplate this, and we all think about this. I mean, it freaks all of us out. You're not alone in this, okay, but I don't think you should take it to a morbid level, but I think it should be, use it to your advantage to live life to the fullest, to enjoy, to take from this, your time in this dunya, as much as you can, to make every moment meaningful. That's what I would say. Right, if the Qur'an is meant to be the final revelation, what makes it so different from the New Old Testament are pretty much the same. What makes up the book is merely the preservation of the Qur'an. Or is there something more grand that you would say is the definitive proof that this is the last and final revelation? Muhammad William Saleh, I'm not sure what that means exactly. I mean, it's obviously it's similar in some ways to the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, in the sense that it's got a message, it's got stories, it's got you know, signs of the afterlife and stuff like that. I suppose the Old Testament doesn't, but it's a similar. There's huge overlapping kind of grounds. I accept that, but the Quran, what makes it the final revelation is that it was the final revelation. Okay, what makes it the final is that it was the final revelation. That's what makes it the final revelation. Next question. What is my view on the Haba'ib of Tarim, Yemen? Only great things. I think they're great people. They're doing some great work. Many of them, they've taught people about the love for this deen and always smiling, and Sheikh Ali al-Jifri and the other Mashayikh always have, they have a great kind of radiating personality about them. So I think definitely, I only think good of them. I don't think anything negative, if that's what you're asking. I don't know them on a very on a up close personal basis, so I can't really comment beyond that. But my impression of them is they are great people. I know Sheikh Adam Kelwick has studied with them from the UK, and so if you reach out to him, I'm sure he can give you more details about them. Right, if a woman divorces and has young daughters, when she remarries, will her new spouse be a mahram for the girls? The girls are pre-pubescent. Right, okay. Yes, they will. So as the Qur'an says, وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُمْ, that, and those from the spouses whom you engage in a full marriage with. Okay, so he is the stepfather, like that, is a mahram to them. Okay. Right, what advice would you give to someone who's unimpressed and disenchanted with dhikr gatherings and tariqah, Sufi orders, but is still searching for the spiritual path of Islam? I don't know, Sidi Yusuf, what to say to these people. I'm not somebody that's so driven by the mystical. To me, Islam is all about reason. And so if that's what they may find meaning in, then I would say absolutely seek seek that path of reason. But if not, you see, because I'm not sure what spirituality means. Okay, because spirituality can mean different things to different people. Does it mean a meditative state in which, like I sit here like I'm spiritual now? I'm sure that is understood as spiritual. I always carry a tasbih and do dhikr. I'm spiritual. I'm sure many people associate that with spirituality. But could you not be spiritual through your reflection? Could that not mean spiritual? Could you not be over your sense of pondering? Over your sense of learning about the deen? Could that not be spiritual? When Imam Malik was criticized, that why he wouldn't do things like pray navel and keep voluntary fasts, and why he wouldn't pray tahajjud in the middle of the night, and why was he always just involved in learning and stuff like that, and he didn't do anything ibadat, worship. This is what the person said to him. Imam Malik said that, look, Allah has divided worship between his slaves. He said, for some they do what you do, and for some they do what I do. And he said, and we're both upon goodness. So I think this spirituality, to some people, spirituality is this kind of hippie state of mind, that I'm in this ecstatic kind of, ooh, everything's just, whoa, I'm spiritual. And I'm sure that is understood as spiritual. I'm sure if you stopped a person in the street and asked them what is spiritual, they probably think of a monk. But does that make it so just because people think that? That's what I'm asking. I don't think so. To me, spiritual is simply your kind of connection, whichever way you make it. Right. Salam Sheikh. 2 Qur'an questions, if you don't mind, on a group of the Jews being turned into apes. Apparently Mujahid read that figuratively. Hearts like those of apes, or something of that sort. How do you understand the ayah? Also, how do you understand the following ayah in Baqarah? فَقُلْنَا نَضْرِبُوهُ بِبَعْضِهَا كَذَلِكَ يُحْيِي اللَّهُ الْمَوْتَى. If the dead man was revived through being hit with the sacrificed cow, is there another way of understanding the ayah? Right. Excellent question. I am open to figurative interpretations. When you say that a people mutated, it could be that it was a figure of speech, as in that their hearts became like that of animals, like that of apes, and that of, or it could be that they had some, those people had some kind of deformities or illnesses, and which doesn't actually it doesn't mean you become an actual ape, but you start to bear certain resemblances to that extent that you are then seen as like as a pig or as a ape. It doesn't mean that you actually turned into an ape, but you became like in some similarity to that. That's, you know, very, in my understanding, plausible. So that doesn't mean, right, there you go, the battery died on my phone, people, look at that. Right, so that's what I would say. Right, as to but I'll look into that even more. And you said about the, you know, اضربوهم ببعضها in the Surah Baqarah, when the person makes an indication towards who has killed him. How was this understood? Because it doesn't say that he necessarily spoke. I know some people say there was like a movement, like he pointed. Now, how was that and what was that about? Let me inshallah look into that. Okay, and I'll get back to you, because I know so far from my understanding they speak about just a pointing. But what was that pointing, and what was it and was this figurative, was it literal? But inshallah I'll get back to you on that real one. Okay, Akbar Amin, how do you explain the hadith of the blind man that murdered his caretaker wife because she insulted the Prophet? Also, I remembered from a past talk you disagreed with the hadith about Musa and his nakedness, despite the hadith being sahih. Can we reject the hadith that are because it wasn't rational? Akbar, excellent question. Right, now, right, oh yes, I remember this hadith. Oh, very good, very good. Right, the hadith which is in Abu Dawood about this slave girl that a person had, and he said, and he kind of, the blind man stood up and said, "Oh Messenger of Allah, I am the one who did this. She used to insult you and say bad things about you. I forbade her. She did not stop, and I rebuked her, but she did not give up her habit. I have 2 sons like pearls from her, and she was kind to me. Last night she began to insult you, so I took a dagger and put it on her belly and pressed it till I killed her." And the Prophet said that, "Bear witness, there is no blood money due for her." This hadith, in my understanding, is not valid. I'm glad you did bring up this hadith. And this hadith, once again, has Ikrimah in it. And it's interesting that, you see, people have asked, and the question has appeared earlier on, that why some people have raised doubts about Ikrimah. Ikrimah is one of the, he was used to be a servant of Ibn Abbas, and then he was freed, and he later on he was in his time one of the key leading members of the Khawarij. This is a known fact of Ikrimah. Okay, Mawla Ibn Abbas. Now he was, so the Khawarij were an extremist group, quite similar to what you have today as ISIS. Okay, they're very similar. In fact, these ISIS today are just a spot-on replica of the Khawarij, who were people about rule. They were so obsessed about rulership, and they had a very puritanical black and white view, and this thing about imposing, and bloodshed meant nothing to them, as long as it was for the sake of Islam. So, in their twisted way. So if you committed a sin, you were a kafir. And if they believed you were a kafir, then your blood meant nothing. So Ikrimah was a known Khariji. And he wasn't just a regular Khariji. He was one of the leading Kharijites of his time. Now, this is why Ibn Umar was clearly, when he saw him, clearly rebuked him and was disgusted even at the sight of him. So there's several harsh comments that Ibn Umar made towards him. And this is why Imam Malik had a strong disliking to Ikrimah, and he would not like his hadith. Okay. Now the thing is, some people say, yeah, but Imam Malik transmitted one hadith from Ikrimah. And the reason, in other hadith where Imam Malik, which Ikrimah is in those hadith, his name is dropped out by Imam Malik. He doesn't like it. So the thing is, but there are some narrations where Imam Malik has transmitted some hadith and Ikrimah is in them. And those hadith, that's because they're corroborated by so many other chains. Now, I would say that, look, the muhaddithin have a principle that, okay, you can accept a certain person's hadith as long as it's not calling to his da'wah, his kind of call. So if a Shia was presenting a hadith on the holy bloodline, it would be a problem, because it's only to reinforce on the imams, or there will be a 12th imam who goes into hiding. This because it only supports his belief, so it's a conflict of interest. Now, so the Khawarij were a group built upon bloodshed and violence. So it's interesting how all these hadith to do with violence were transmitted through Ikrimah. So I find that incredibly strange, and the fact that Imam Malik did not like him and would reject him, I reject him. Now you can have a problem with that, and that's fine, but and you can accept him. So this hadith that Sayyidina Ali burnt people alive, I refuse to accept that. And Ikrimah says that Sayyidina Ali did it. And by the way, the Khawarij hated Ali. They considered Ali a kafir. Okay, for your information, right? They were Ali's group. They were the Shia to Ali who rebelled against Ali and said to him that the only way we're going to support you is if you declare yourself a kafir and repeat your shahada. And because Ali refused, they then obviously fought him. So the thing is, and I accept that the Khawarij had different branches. They branched off into several other groups. You had the Sufriya and the other groups, and I accept that. But the point is that they did not like Sayyidina Ali to start off with. They transmit that Sayyidina Ali, this hadith which is in Bukhari about the apostate, that you kill the apostate. And they say Sayyidina Ali burnt them. And then they transmit the hadith that they heard Ali radiallahu anh saying, Man baddala deenahu faqtuluhu. Whoever changes his religion, then kill him. I'm sorry, but that is unacceptable. I do not accept that. Okay. Now, and I've gone into, if you watch my Age of Aisha clip, I've told you in there, if you watch that, in the beginning I give one of the premise and show this between hadith absolutism and hadith relativism. And Imam Malik and the school of Medina were always about hadith relativism. They were never about hadith absolutism. So Imam Malik in his Sahih book, the Muwatta, which is more authentic than Bukhari, and it is the oldest collection of Sahih Hadith we have in the world today, Imam Malik's book. He, after several Sahih Hadith, says very clearly, we don't act according to it. He says, our practice of Medina does not accept this Hadith. So, rejecting a Sahih Hadith, it is not something where it is part of the kind of principles of the school of Medina and Ahl Sunnah when it clashes with the universals of Islam. Okay, just because a hadith is sahih, that means its chain is connected. It does not mean it is a sunnah. So once again, we have a hadith here about a blind person killing killing somebody, and the Prophet just ignoring it because he said this, transmitted by who? Once again, Ikrimah and the hadith. So these are problematic. And the other thing, coming back to the other point about where we see hadith which contradict and clash with the universals of Islam, they are problematized. Okay, they cannot be authentic. Like the hadith which is in Sahihain about the Prophet Moses, which I'm sorry, but is an absolute affront and disrespectful to the prophets. It's an insult to the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. It speaks about how that he the people of the tribe of Israel wanted to see his testicles because they believed that his one testicle was larger than his other testicle, and then one day, you know, and they would mock him because of this, and then one day when he put his clothes on a rock, the rock ran off with his clothes, and Moses chased after the rock, and everybody saw his testicles, and they realized, oh, his testicles are fine. In fact, the hadith describes him as having quite reasonably sized testicles. And this is an insult to the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, who is a great figure and personality within Islam. I'm sorry, but that's nonsense. Utter nonsense. Okay, I do not believe this kind of bizarre stuff, and I'm surprised how you can try to justify that under the banner of Islam. So I'm sorry, you know, we do not accept these kind of things that insult Islamic prophets. Okay, would you accept that? And just because somebody says, at this point, I wanna elaborate on something, and that is, if you go to the books of hadith, usul al-hadith, like, let's say, Tadrib al-Rawi or other books, which is by Suyuti and other people, they will speak, they have a section, if you can look in different books, but there will be a section on al-riwaya bil-ma'na. Are you allowed to transmit something? Because, why am I about to explain what I am? Because somebody might ask here, that how does this hadith get here? How can it be wrong? How, if the chain is connected? Well, that can be done based on at least, right, we can at least look at two reasons come immediately to our mind. One simple reason is that just because a chain is connected, nobody has said that there cannot be a mistake. Nobody has ever said that. They have said when a chain is connected, it is most likely that that is an authentic narration. So we will go by, it's a rule of thumb. Okay, so we go by as a rule of thumb that is connected. Most schools, like the Maliki madhhab, the Hanafi madhhab, had a separate criteria to validate a hadith. Not like the Shafi'i absolutists, who just took a chain connected and said, this is gospel. The Maliki school and the Hanafi school did not accept a hadith just because it was sahih to be authentic. They accepted it as valid, but not necessarily an authentic transmission until it did not meet the other criteria. And the criteria was that it could not clash with the universals of Islam. Right, so just to clarify. So now, one possibility is somebody could... So there's three possibilities, sorry, not two, three possibilities, okay. Reason one, it could be that somebody made a mistake. They forgot. They misrepresented something. It's not impossible, but it could happen. Reason number one. Reason number two, that it could be that somebody somebody deceptively fabricated a narration. It could happen. So you have sometimes some people will use solid chains and say, I heard from this person to this person, and they will put in what is a fabricated hadith. And people fabricate hadith for all kinds of reasons. Okay, and you can go to the books of hadith and you'll have confessions from people saying, I used to fabricate hadith for this reason. I had a good intention and I did this and I did that. So just to let you know. And there's all kinds of reasons why people fabricated hadith. The third thing, and this is a very important factor, I want to highlight this one. This is to do with ar-riwaya bil ma'na, transmitting by the overall meaning. Okay, now the thing is, are you allowed to transmit a hadith by its overall meaning? Are you allowed to paraphrase? This is the debate. Some people, like Imam Malik, clearly rejected and condemned paraphrasing hadith. He said that this is not how hadith should be transmitted. But many other ulama, like I believe Sufyan al-Thawri and other people, and there's many, you can go to the books of hadith and you'll find several names, accepted paraphrased hadith. Now the problem with this is paraphrasing happens on the person's comprehension of what they thought they understood. So sometimes I could hear something, but I don't fully... What did you say? What did you say? Right, so if I'm just going to say what you exactly said, so I say this person said, like imagine now, I heard somebody say something like, I put this on the dock. What does that mean? So, if I'm going to try to make meaning and paraphrase it, there's a pro and a con. The pro is that there's a greater chance I can remember it, I can make sense of this for people. Because I'm going to put this on the dock, what does that mean? Am I talking about dock as in a doctor? Am I talking about dock as in a docking station? Talking about docks as in where ships are? What am I talking about? Now, I could try to paraphrase this to make sense for people who I'm going to teach. The benefit of that is it will be meaningful. The harm is that my interpretation may completely change the meaning. I may have even slightly misheard. Now my interpretation will give this a whole new slant. Now if you read books like the books of hadith, like let's say Tadrib al-Rawi, other books where they speak on this section of paraphrasing, and those scholars who used to endorse and accept paraphrasing, when you read their explanations, they actually say, one of them, so for example, there's a transmission where one of the Salaf says, when he's asked, can we paraphrase? And he says, how many times have you read the Qur'an? And the person says, countless times. And he says, and be honest with me, have you still made mistakes when reading it? Have you sometimes put a wow, like the letter and, where there wasn't an and? Have you confused an and a then? Have you confused an and a yet when reading it from memory? And the person said, yes, I have. He said, then that's to do with the Qur'an, which you may have read over 1,000 times in your life. What do you think happens to us when we relate a hadith which we've only heard once? So the point here is that, you see, it's important to understand that there must be a balance. Okay, hadith provides us an amazing qualitative insight to this deen, one without which our deen would be incomplete. But that hadith is what we would call sunnah. You see, the school of Medina made a distinction between sunnah and hadith. Sunnah was the way of the Prophet. Imam Malik said, not every hadith is a sunnah. Not every hadith is a sunnah. And Imam Abu Hanifa was of the same opinion. Not every hadith is a sunnah. So, there has to be a balance between rejecting hadith. We don't just reject hadith, because by just rejecting categorically all hadith, we would be forsaking a huge portion of our deen. But on the same token, we don't become absolutists and gospelize and totally sanctify as a whole the corpus of hadith, because that would take us out of the deen as well. Why do I say this? Imam Malik said this. Imam Malik said this. Imam Malik said to people that it's famously transmitted from him, Innal wahid an wahid, this khabrul ahad, this hadith that you have one-on-one, yanzi'ud deen min bayni yadayk, it will snatch the deen away from you. It will take you out of Islam if you allow it to contradict the universals of Islam. So this is why it is important that we strike a very delicate balance. That yes, we do accept hadith. Yes, we sift through them and try to find those which we believe to be the sunnah. But if a hadith goes against reason, if a hadith goes against the universal principles of Islam, then it needs to be questioned. And if it doesn't, if it stands, then alhamdulillah, if it stands the test, it stands the test. If it doesn't, then it's a problem. Like, let me give you an example. There is a hadith in Sahih Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ sent Ali, that there was a person, there was a slave woman, and some people say this was the Prophet's slave, and some people say it was just a slave woman, that they said it was rumored that she was committing adultery with this guy that used to always be with her, a relative of hers. So this is in Sahih Muslim, and it says that the Prophet sent Ali to go find him and kill him. This is what the hadith says. It says that the Prophet sent Ali to go find him and kill him. So Ali came to him, and he was in a kind of bathtub. They used to have their kind of versions of a bathtub. It was a small, not like today's bathtubs, but it was like a larger than a bowl. It was something that they would kind of sit in with water. So he found him in one of them. So he found him with the slave. The slave woman was there, but he was in this tub. So Ali pulls out his sword. This is in Sahih Muslim. And the person jumps up out of fear. When he jumps up, it becomes apparent that he does not have a penis, because his penis is cut off. Right, this is what the wording of the hadith. He was kana majboob al-dhakar, that he was, snipped. He had some accident or something. Anyway, he was emasculated. He was an emasculated person, so castrized. So he had no penis. So when Ali sees that, he becomes shocked, and he thinks, well, okay, because I've come here to kill you because you were committing adultery, but you don't even have a penis. So he goes back and tells the Prophet, and the Prophet says, okay. Can you accept that, people? That is in Sahih Muslim. That is absurd. That is absurd, I'm sorry. That is nonsense. The Prophet would not just have innocent people killed. This goes against the message of Islam. This goes against the character of the Prophet. Now, you might have a problem with that. That's you. I don't have a problem in rejecting that. That hadith is nonsensical. How did it get there? One of those three ways. Either somebody fabricated it, because maybe they hated Ali, and they wanted to put in a hadith which depicted Ali in a negative light. Or maybe they had some other reason for putting that in there. Or maybe the fact that somebody actually made a genuine mistake in transmitting that. They thought, like a genuine mistake along the line. Genuine mistake. Or thirdly, maybe the person somewhere in the chain paraphrased the story, and as it started to get paraphrased, it changed into that. But this is one of the three ways how that hadith got there. This is nothing new. Qadi Iyad, in the beginning of Sahih Muslim, explains that he says that Sahih Muslim contains some hadith which are not Sahih. He says this. And this is what Imam Mazari said. In fact, Imam Mazari says there are at least 13 or 14 hadith in this book which are utterly unacceptable. So there's nothing shocking about this. So my point is, to strike this balance is incredibly important. Okay. Whoa, boy, I did not think I was going to go on for that. Right, okay. How can one benefit from... Let's take some rapid round questions. How can one benefit from Ramadan? Well, watch my fast and fiqhs, inshallah. Look, just try to make the most of it however you can. However you can, man. However you can. Are tattoos an enormity? I've answered this previously. You can watch my previous... Search tattoos, my name, on YouTube, and you can listen to it. Check through the index. I've explained how some Malikis did not consider them haram, Zanati, Al-Qarafi, and I've highlighted the details. And that's, personally, my understanding would be in line with what Imam Qarafi said, that I don't think they're haram. as long as they're not disfiguring. As long as, like you get all these kind of, some people doing tattoos and kind of like to scare people and gang signs and all this kind of stuff. It's not like that, like just small tattoos. If people did them, I don't think they necessarily, it depends actually. I mean, some could be just not really that much of a big deal, I suppose, a small tattoo somewhere. But generally, that's what I'm inclined to. I don't think it's haram. I think they'll probably be makruh, discouraged, because of the fact that they are irreversible, generally speaking. I know nowadays you can reverse them through some efforts. Right, okay, Isha and Fajr timings in the summer for the UK. Watch my fast and ficus. Fajr doesn't really kick in, so you can, whenever you pray, but obviously in Ramadan it's going to get more complicated, so watch my fast and ficus. I do explain in that you can just take the timings for any region. You can just go with the kind of estimated timings, that's fine. You can just work backwards from sunrise with an approximation, that's fine. Is gambling an enormity? Gambling is haram. There you go, people. Those of you who say I never said anything's haram, and that's because of the amount of households and families it has led to destruction. Even in countries like the UK, I mean, it's incredible how many people are addicted to gambling and have kind of ruined their lives over it. Am I going to visit you in Germany someday? Fakhri, Burisha, inshallah, I'm going to visit you someday in Germany. Right, so just hang in there, inshallah. We got to chill out when we hit the motherland. Right, I forgot the German term for that, but how do you deal with major mood swings? What makes you think I have major mood swings? But if you have major mood swings, you got to control yourself. Try to chill out, people. Try to do whatever can relax you. Get that sleep, get that relaxation. Try to live life. I can't encourage this as much. I cannot overemphasize this. The amount of people I see caught up about petty little things, just letting life drift by. Do not let that happen, people. Could you explain Hasad in Islam? Susan Hindi. Hasad is envy, being envious. It is forbidden. Obviously, it's a natural. It can happen. We can all become envious, at times, and I understand that sometimes it's more, the prohibition is more about acting out on it. Okay, or hasidin min sharri hasidin idha hasad. When you act out on it is the problem. Sometimes you can't help but be envious, but you have to try to counter that, because that negativity is not helpful. It's only going to make you feel worse. I'm leading Taraweeh this Ramadan. Have you got any tips? I'm afraid not the best person to ask for that. I would say get in touch with some local Maulanas and ask them, inshallah, on that. Is it allowed to have an abortion for any reason before the end of the first trimester? Yes, it is, Kenneth. You can have an abortion. Generally, schools, most of the ulama accept an abortion. They disagree on the time period, ranging. I know some people like Imam Ghazali are very strict. The moment fertilization has taken place, it's almost Catholic that it's haram. But most schools of law disagree with that. The most lenient being like the Hanafi school, the Hanbali school, some Malikis in there, that it is up to 4 months. That is the view that I take as well, that I'm in favor with, that if there was a reason that you felt, and it was a strong enough reason for you, and it's subjective. Look, and I feel it's wrong to dictate onto people. It's their lives, it's their bodies and their lives. Right? It's wrong for me to tell you what is a difficulty. There's some difficulties that we can all accept are difficulties, but it's your life. If you feel that this will be difficult, then it's your call. You do not need, like the Qur'an is not going to spell out every difficulty that you're going to have in life. But if it's enough for you to feel it's going to be difficult, then you can make that call. Okay, you can say that, and it's permissible for you to have an abortion. Okay. Right, here there's a question, and this is an awesome question by Hamza Aki, but I don't think We really haven't got the time today, but it's to do with what I speak about quite a bit, which is trajectory hermeneutics, trajectory ethics, that ethics does evolve over time. So the person has asked that, look, in previous nations, prophets, pork wasn't necessarily haram, wine wasn't haram. So obviously scripture has changed. So has morality changed? Of course it has. Morality changes along the way. Ethics evolve. So our age, Islam, in my understanding, it wants you to reflect the ethics of the age. That's what it needs, okay, from you. But we need to give that a more lengthy kind of commitment on another time. Okay. I've answered this before. Right, people. What happens at death? Look, what happens at death, Allahu A'lam. Right, we don't know. It's the great unknown. But inshallah, what the hadith teaches is that if somebody was at that stage, to be optimistic. Okay, that look, think positively. Okay, just think that, look at all the greatness that Allah gave you in this world. Surely what He has to come will be even greater. Okay, so just, and on that note, people, let's call it a night. Right, it's a wrap. Right, so inshallah, we've had quite a bit covered today. So listen, if you need to reach out to me on Facebook, do that. If you haven't already, like this page, people, share it. Do support my work. By supporting it, I mean just like it, have positive comments. You know, I get enough, not that it bothers me, but I get haters all the time. But it's good to see sometimes, you know, the message getting out there, or to feel some of that kind of, that energy, that positivity just bounce back at me. So, inshallah, if you do need to reach out to me, you can send me messages on Facebook. I do try to respond on Snapchat. It's Malm 2014, MALM 2014. And Malm, it stands for Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki. Those of you that keep asking. Right, so inshallah. Right, people. Next week, I'm not really sure if I will be continuing during Ramadan. Let's see how it goes, inshallah. But you've got plenty to watch. A lot of my daily Q&A is being released. Do check that out. If you haven't gone through any a course on fiqh, then my courses are available on Facebook. Just search. I've got a basic one called the Ashmawiyah in 6 audio lectures. I've got Qadi Iyad's Foundations of Islam in 21 audio lectures. Check them out, inshallah. I will have them as podcasts as well. I've got the history of Al-Andalus. I've got some stuff on the Qur'an if you want to do that in Ramadan. So great things to check out. You've got many other people sharing things, so plenty of things to do. So inshallah, if I don't share anything, if I don't do any live broadcasts in Ramadan, then have an awesome and blessed Ramadan, inshallah. Remember me in your du'as, people. Right, so, and take very good care of yourselves. Stay blessed. Walhamdulillah. وتعالى الله عما يصفون وأفضل الصلاة والسلام على القائل الممنون المدينة خير لهم لو كانوا يعلمون والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.